Welcome to the Living Unconventionally podcast. I am your host, Chris Pyak. Every week I feature a new unconventionalist who has ditched their desk in order to chase their passions around the world. Every Monday we talk about their epic travel adventures. We also talk about how they are able to make these travels happen from a financial standpoint. Every once in a while I will coach an aspiring unconventionalist. Together we figure out their biggest dreams, why they are so passionate about them, and what will be the first step towards their goals. If you would like to be a part of a community of like-minded, travel-loving, adventure-seeking people, you can join us in the Living Unconventionally Facebook community by going to livingunconventionally.com/Facebook. I hope this podcast and the community will get you started on your own freedom journey, so that one day I can be featuring you and your world travels. Welcome to episode 190. Brittany Felix gave Living Unconventionally her very own voice, in more than just a literal sense. And that's why I'm very grateful that she trusted me to reanimate the show and to bring it back to life after she retired it about 6 months ago. You can listen all about it in the last episode, number 189, which you can find at livingunconventionally.com/189. I want to preserve the values and the tone of Brittany's show and add a few ideas of myself. For once, as you can hear, I am European. I am originally from Germany, but I lived in 5 different countries. So we will have more guests from all around the world, sharing their travel stories and their way to a truly unconventional lifestyle. And second, once in a while, I will coach an aspiring unconventionalist. Together we figure out what their biggest dreams are, why they are so important to them, and what will be the first step to their goal. And you can be a part of that transformation. If you would like to be a guest on the show and either share your personal freedom journey or take advantage of my coaching, just reach out to me via chris@livingunconventionally.com. Now, let's get on our first journey together, shall we? We will visit Scotland, set our navigation system to London, but end up somewhere completely different, in a magical little town where we will meet a real-life fairy. Prague is a city like from a fairy tale. Little houses, historic buildings, small, narrow, cobblestoned streets, and a castle overseeing the city and the river. And like every good fairy tale, this city needs its very own fairy. And the fairy is the one that I will interview today. Welcome, Nelly Bogilova.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me again. It's a great pleasure to chat with you, as always.
Yeah. Nelly, I introduce you as a fairy because you make people's wishes come true, and especially the kind of wishes that are interesting for our listeners today. Can you tell us in a few words, what are you doing for a living?
I work as a recruiter, specialist recruiter in the pharmaceutical industry. I get this awesome list of roles that are all over Europe, very interesting positions. And
that's actually how we met, because I interviewed you for my Immigrant Spirit podcast about a position of all places in Iceland.
Yeah, absolutely. Places like Iceland, Ireland, Switzerland, Moscow. I get a bunch of awesome positions, and what I do for a living is try to make somebody's dream come true by offering this position to them and really making their life different and absolutely changing their future. Yeah. So this is pretty much what I do.
And you have experience with this yourself, because you also have been living abroad for quite a while. You are originally from Bulgaria, I believe. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you moved to Scotland to study history. Is that correct?
Yes, and there was a little bit of time before I did go to Scotland. I lived a little bit in Bavaria in Germany, in a little town called Kempten. I
Oh,
worked
okay.
there for I worked there for 2 summers in a Werkstoffhof.
Mhm.
And after I finished school, I applied to a bunch of universities in the UK, a couple of them in England, a couple of them in Scotland. Got accepted mostly pretty much everywhere, and decided to go to Aberdeen because one of my favorite rock bands was from there,
Okay, which one is it?
the Fratellis. They're not actually from Aberdeen, they're from Glasgow. But I thought if it's Scottish, they'll be really close, so I can go to the gigs and listen to their concerts.
I must admit I haven't listened to them, but when I think about a rock band and a Scottish, the first thought comes to my mind is very hard to understand.
Yeah, I arrived at the airport and I went into a taxi and I asked for directions because I was looking for just the bus stop. And the taxi driver spoke something in a very thick accent, very thick Scots accent. And I didn't understand a word. And I thought I really wanted to start crying because I've been studying English at school for so long beforehand, like years and years. And after not understanding a very simple direction, I thought, I'm not going to survive in this country. This is not going to happen. But then it all worked itself out. You get to understand a little bit better with time. You get to even speak a little bit yourself. And people, when they understand you foreign, they actually really try to make an effort and speak slower and clearer and don't apply so much thick accent.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite Scottish phrase?
They like to say "nay nads." So for example, if you were if you were with a group of friends, you were wanting to jump into the sea from the cliffs, and you didn't want to do it
Mhm.
because you were afraid. They would call you "nay nads Chris," which would mean "no balls Chris." So I'd always be "nay nads Nelly" because I always refuse to do crazy things. uh, so I'd be "no balls Nelly." That is my favorite. That was my favorite phrase.
Well, I think it's a bit unfair because you dare to do a lot of things that other people only dream about. You know, you lived in a good number of different countries. Before we started the recording, you told me that one of your next steps is to finally move to London. So you are in Aberdeen, finishing your university. You graduated. Your goal is to move to London. You get on the road, and you end up where?
Funnily enough, I ended up completely in the opposite way, at the opposite end of Europe. I ended up in Prague, which is on the main continent.
And I blame left side driving for that.
Yeah, it was really interesting to live in a country that has left side driving.
Yeah.
And I blame it too. I think that's the reason I ended up in Prague.
So how did it actually happen? Tell us about it.
So really, it's because of the role I have at the moment. The company I'm working in has a couple of offices around Europe, and one of them is in Prague. And they called me up and they said you would be good for this role. However, we know you want to go in London. However, you have to go through Prague first to go through our academy, our training and development academy, which is based in Prague to be able to go back to London. And for me, this sounded like another challenge, another thing I could prove to myself I can do. So here I am in Prague now, proving it to myself. It's not as easy as it sounds. There's quite a lot of challenges, as you can imagine, changing countries so often.
Yeah, what was the biggest challenge that you experienced so far?
Oh, God. The first thing I can think of is that I really miss the people I left back in Britain. I really miss the connections I made there. I really miss my boyfriend that's still there. And It's really hard to, have a meaningful life somewhere when you know that all the people you care about are somewhere else. This is something you have to get used to as an immigrant very often. It's something that you can always work with and you can always make it happen. But besides that, there was how impolite are Czech people. This is the second challenge I had. They really have no manners, absolutely. No offense, Czech people, but you can do some teaching when it comes to manners.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I was thinking, because I made the same experience. I lived for 6 years in Estonia and afterwards in many other countries. And I would say the first thought was for me that, of course, probably your friends will visit much more often than my friends, because Prague is a very dreamy location. But before I get to that, I wanted to ask you, this experience to move to different countries, to always have to leave people that you love behind and make new contacts. Did it change how you approach people now?
It has made me a little bit more open to everyone and try to understand everyone in their situation. It has made me more accepting to what other people's points of views are and less judgmental. I definitely think that changing places that I live in has made me tolerant. One of the best things is that makes you very tolerant. I think this is the way forward.
Because you realize there are freaks everywhere. We are just different kind of freaks.
Different kind of freaks. Everyone is a weirdo. Such a weirdo, you have no idea.
Understand. So now, I think what of course a lot of our listeners are curious about is you are in Prague, in this wonderful fairy tale town with historic buildings, with cobblestones. What is your favorite place?
I really like the winding cobbled streets in the city center there is a cinnamon smelling cafes and there's so much warmth somehow in the city. However, my favorite place is just outside. It's about 15-minute bike ride outside the city along the river. If you go, you'll see a massive, very ancient brick wall that comes winding up and up and up. And after about 40 minutes of climbing stairs and going up this wall, you get up to the tower top and you have the most gorgeous view of the entire city along with the river. And it just so happened that when I went there, it was at sunset. So the entire city was lit in golden and the reflection of the sun was shining in the river. And it was the most magical moment I can remember happening to me recently.
Do you remember what went through your head when you experienced this moment?
Yeah, I thought how lucky I am to be alive and see this.
That's a very nice thought. What would you recommend when the people that you love, when they come to visit you in Prague, and our listeners as well, what should they definitely see? What is something they have to see that you just want to share with them, except this castle that you already mentioned?
That's a very good question. I don't know if it's a very secret place, but where I take all of my friends who come visit and all my loved ones, I take them to the Charles Bridge. This is the most popular attraction. However, I take them up the Charles Bridge Tower. So I get them to climb for ages up the stairs. And then you can see almost as good a view as I explained earlier. It's a very high up, right in the center of the city. So you get the chance to walk around the tower and see in every direction what there is. It's very accessible. It's very close to the city center. It's right at the main tourist attraction. However, you have to climb up the stairs. Also, a little tip for students. If you bring your student ID, you'll save yourself a little bit of money.
Very, very good. So you are someone who can find the special in the commonly known, because it's the Tower Bridge, of course, every tourist who ever has been to Prague goes and sees the Tower Bridge. Yeah. But you find this special place inside the Tower Bridge as well.
Yeah, there's a little museum right halfway through because it's quite a lot of stairs you have to take. There's a little room that's quite medieval, very, very beautifully adorned with different ornaments. There is a little bit of history written on the walls. And once you take a break in this little room, you climb up all the way to the rooftop of that tower. And the view that's out there, it's gorgeous, simply amazing.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that's very important for you because all your places that you told us now, they're all very high. Do you like being in the mountains, or do you like that you have the overview, or what is so inspiring for you there?
I like when you hire above everyone else, you can see a lot more than they can see. I like it. It's something very funny about the feeling you have when you overlook somebody that can't see you, but you know that you can see everything they can see and even more. There's something very alluring, very powerful about that feeling.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see yourself next? You said Prague is a detour for you to finally end up in London. And then?
And then after London, after solid years of successful career, I would like to retire in South America on a Brazilian beach and make bracelets for a living and have bonfires every night. This is something I see myself doing after a successful career, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have you been to Brazil? Did you have a chance to go?
No, I've never been, and I'm so fascinated by it and by its nature and by its traditions. The mixture of people is also very interesting to me. Such an interesting genome of people that lives there.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very wild mix. I was in Rio de Janeiro and in Sao Paulo. I'm not sure. I think maybe 10 years ago. I went there for the carnival. And the first thing that hit me when I came to Rio was it was raining. They don't tell you that the carnival is in what they call winter, so 25 degrees or so, and it's raining a lot. So that was the first disappointing because I had this image in my head that Brazil means sunny beaches and so forth. But it was really, really amazing. The people are just awesome. I went to see the official carnival and the unofficial one. The official carnival was very weird because the first group that was dancing when I arrived was a group of the Japanese population in Rio de Janeiro. They have a very strong Japanese population there. And that somehow it's not the first image that comes to your mind when you think about carnival in Rio. But they were dancing really good, I have to admit, you know. The second thing that I experienced was the preparation. They really take carnival very seriously. So they train for it for the whole year before they arrived. So in Sao Paulo, I went to one of the rehearsals. What was really fascinating is there's 1,000 people in a hall. There's this garbage cans that they turn into drums. And you see all kind of people dancing, young people, old people. There was a really ancient lady, probably above 90 years old, with 3 teeth left in hot pants.
Jesus.
Yeah, in hot pants. That's an image you don't forget, even if you want to.
No.
And I'm from Germany, so I'm a pretty cool, rational guy. But even because these drums, they get into your head, you know. So in the beginning, I hear this, and I'm like, okay, very nice. After 2 hours, you go like, you totally get lost in the moment. And if it even works with me as a German, it means it's a really awesome place to be.
I don't think you should underestimate yourself as being German, that you can have fun. I think that Rio de Janeiro proves it with its diversity and Japanese people.
So that's your ultimate dream, to make, what was it, bracelets at the beach?
I want to be, no, really, if I have to be sincere, I want to be financially independent so that I could explore the world and afford to go to Brazil and just really live there, even if it's on the beach. The ultimate goal would be to visit as many places as I can and visit the most unusual places on Earth.
Yeah, there you fit right in with our listeners and myself as well. That's why this podcast is called Living Unconventionally, because that's the dream for many people to live the life they really care about, and to be free to go and see places and be with people they love, and still make a living there. And that's something maybe that your profession and my profession enables us a little bit easier to do, because I assume you don't very often get to meet clients in person, no, or candidates. You usually do the interviews via the phone or via Skype. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. I've actually never met any of my candidates yet, or any of my clients. However, I have a funny story about this. I sent an email to a lady who supposedly was living in Switzerland. However, she replied to me saying that she's in Colombia at the moment, in a garden, but she's interested in the email I had. I was offering a position that I thought would be suitable for her. And what we did, we had a call on WhatsApp. And that was the way I interviewed. She was in the garden, on the beach. I was in my office, and that was the best interview I've ever had with a candidate, because I could actually hear the sea, and I could actually hear I could hear the noises of the local people, and it was like being transported to her location through this conversation. And I'm really hoping to find her a job, and when she comes back from her trip, she's doing 6 months in South America. When she comes back from her trip, she can start in a new position.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, Nelly, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I hope that your dream will become true. Especially since you were working as an international recruiter, maybe, just maybe, after another year or two in the office, you can convince your employer to let you work from home office. Basically, that's personally, one thing, if I can share this last thought.
Yeah.
I analyze, for example, the jobs that we offer here in Germany, and most of the jobs you can do remotely. And there are countries like the Netherlands, for example, where you actually have a right to work from home office, as long as there are no objective reason that you have to be in place. And I always think, why is there no recruiter out there who is specializing in remote work jobs, home office jobs for high-skilled people? Because they would find the greatest people in the world working for them, and could deliver so high quality for their clients. That's something, maybe for the future, if you ever become self-employed, that's something you should specialize in. And then you can be on the beach.
Yeah, I think it gives you the freedom, and also it allows you to work in your own time. So really balance your work, your life, and your work in the best possible way. I think there's no other way to balance it if you don't decide when to do what. So homework would be the way forward for this, I think.
And since you're a recruiter, now really final thought from my side, for those of our listeners who dream about building this kind of lifestyle that you just described, the dream that we all share, from your recruiter's perspective, what would be your number one tip that could help them achieve this lifestyle?
Know really well what you can do, know really well what you want to do, and work hard to achieve it. So have an aim and work towards it with every possible breath you can do, and it will happen. If you work hard and you know you can do it, there's no reason why not.
Nelly Bogalova was this in the Living Unconventionally podcast. Thank you so much, Nelly. And
Thank you, Chris.
And I'm sure we will meet again and interview in London, and then later in Brazil, and in all the countries that you end up in between, because your navigation system put you in the wrong place.
It's a little bit wrong navigation system, but I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for this week. Thank you, Nelly Bogalova, for sharing your story with us and taking us to so wonderful places. Next week, we travel to Bolivia, where we meet a young boy with huge entrepreneurial spirit who grew up to become a wonderful person, traveling to really exciting places and living a truly unusual, unconventional life that for sure will inspire you. I really enjoyed spending this time together with you. I hope you did too. So I hope we stay in touch and you subscribe to this podcast by clicking the subscribe button. My name is Pyak, and I hope we hear each other again next Monday.